Hi chaps, MOP here from Beard, Biceps and Batchat. Today we're going to do a review of the Rheinmetall Skorpion G, or going forward, the Skorpion G. Now, we've got 3 tier 8 premium tanks that we've just had released that I'm going to be uploading over the next 3 days. So the way I'm going to do these reviews is my usual format, which is compare it to something that's similar. So in this case it will be the Borsig. For the pattern, for the M46KR it's going to be the Pershing, and we'll run through it in as much as possible a objective way as possible. What I'm going to do then, after we've got the reviews up, I'm then going to do some gameplay videos for tanks that I purchased. Ones that I'll be definitely picking up are the Skorpion G. I'm undecided on the KR and the Mutts yet, but we'll see. And I'm going to look to get the other 3 premium tanks that we've had released, or the 2 new ones anyway, which is the French Medium and the Cromwell B, through the Earn Up. So we'll still do a review of those, but gameplay for those 2 tanks will probably come after I've earned them. Again, that's just to make sure I'm nice and clear on it, just so you know I'm not doing a review missing out the gameplay. It's just so I can get it done nice and quickly, so you guys can enjoy it and hopefully make an informed decision on whether these tanks are worth it. So straight into the Skorpion G. So this is a tier 8 German, and this is important, turreted premium tank destroyer. Now let me give you the headlines of this tank. So it's got 590 alpha damage, it goes 60 kilometers per hour, it's got a fully traversable turret, and it's got 7 degrees of gun depression. Now for this tank, the closest comparison to it is the much loved and I suppose equally much hated Borsig. So what we're going to do is do a direct comparison as much as possible. The Borsig obviously is a tier 8 German turreted non-premium tank destroyer at tier 8. Very similar to this tank. They've got a lot of things in common with a couple of key differences. So we're just going to go over them and just see what we think at the end of it. So the first thing is paint job on this tank. Love it. I know that's subjective and not objective, but love the paint job on it. Looks cool. Really cool looking tank. Love the camo on it. What's not to like about a red Skorpion on a tank, hence the tank name Skorpion G. So let's just go straight into all things gun. Let's start there. So the DPM on this tank is 2,409 compared to the Borsig's 2,556. Now the reason for that is they mount the same gun, which is obviously the 12-8 cannon. It's similar gun, similar gun, where the Skorpion G is able to get off 4.92 rounds per minute. The Borsig's able to get off 5.22. With equipment, essentially the DPM is going to be, if we're being honest, the same, because they're both going to be shooting 5 shells a minute at maximum ability. There's no way, even with equipment, you can get the Borsig up to 6 shells a minute, but you can very easily get the Skorpion G up to 5 shells a minute. So the DPM, although it's slightly different, it's the same. It's 5 shells a minute. Now the reload that we have on the Skorpion G is 12.2 seconds compared to the Borsig's 11.5 seconds. We're talking 0.7 of a second. It's not too bad. It's not great, but for the punch you're getting on this tank with 490 alpha damage, you're probably pretty happy to wait 12.2 seconds per reload. Now the beauty is, with equipment you can bring that down probably to a comfortable 11.5. So again, you're still not waiting that long between each reload, and we'll talk about the playstyle tank and how we can utilise that as well. Now, one of the really good things about this tank is the aim time, 2.1 seconds. That is insane. Again, that's hopefully going to really give us an idea of how this tank is going to play and how it should be played compared to the Borsig. The Borsig has an aim time of 2.3 seconds. Now, that 2.3 isn't poor. I'd still call that very good on the Borsig. On the Skorpion G, it is absolutely just unreal. Now, the next thing to look at here is we have the accuracy of 0.3 at 100 meters. That is insane. It is laser-like. I know the Grille 15 has 0.27, which we all know is really good. The Borsig has 0.35. So this is significantly more accurate than the Borsig with a quicker aim time. So you're able to get in positions just to snap shots off and stop yourself taking return fire in return, I guess. Now the dispersions when you move in, turning the turret, aren't as good as the Borsigs. The Borsig's better, but because of your aim time, the bloom on your dispersion is going to be about the same. It's going to take you just as long to aim at a tank and pull the trigger. So it's only really when you're staying fully still where the Skorpion G is going to come out significantly ahead in terms of aim time due to the dispersions. Now, one of the things that's quite interesting on this tank is the depression. We have 7 degrees on this tank and 5 degrees on the Borsig. Now, the Borsig, because of the way the hull is and where the turret is, it's 5 degrees pretty much all the way around. Whereas this tank actually isn't. On the front, you're actually only getting 6 degrees of gun depression. But if you move and start shooting over the side of your tank, that is when you get your 7 degrees of gun depression. And you are definitely not getting 7 degrees of gun depression if you're shooting from the back. So ideally, the way you want to be playing this is having the gun just poking over the side at this angle, get your full 7 degrees of gun depression, and you become really, really nasty around ridges. Again, this is just giving us information on how this tank can be played. Now, next thing we want to move on to, and this is another one of the strengths, is the speed of this tank. This tank can reach 60 kilometers per hour in a straight line very, very comfortably. It's got a top reverse speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Again, in comparison to the Borsig moves forward in a straight line at 35 kilometers per hour at top speed. Its reverse is 12 kilometers per hour. The power to weight ratio on this tank, 17.02, is very, very good, and your horsepower is 750 compared to the Borsig, which has 207 horsepower and a power to weight ratio of 10.12. This tank is very, very quick going forward. It should and probably will draw a lot of comparisons to the play style. If you have the Grill A15, you're going to be playing this tank in a fairly similar way. The one thing that's sort of worth pointing out is the terrain resistances aren't great on the Skorpion G. So turning, you're going to start bleeding a lot of speed. Not huge amounts, but a noticeable amount. So it's just something to be aware of as you're playing the tank. It's also a little bit slower than the Borsig when it's turning. The Borsig has 38 degrees rotation speed, this only has 30, and it's fairly noticeable. So it's just something to bear in mind. Now, the next thing to look at with this little bad boy is the armour. Like the Borsig, this thing has no armour, but that's okay. You know, you're not reliant on armour. The Borsig obviously relies on its great camo rating to keep itself from harm. This thing has great speed to keep itself from harm. So the hull armour on the Skorpion G is 30 on the front, 16 on the side, and 20 on the rear. Now, on the turret itself, the front is 15mm, the side's 15mm, the back of the turret, 0. You have to be very, very aware of HE rounds that are coming in towards you. Compared to the Borsig, the hull armour on the front is 20, side is 10, back is 8. The turret is front 20, side 20, back 0. Again, really similar with the Borsig. If someone's shooting HE or, God forbid, Hesh at you, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. So, one of the other, I suppose this mars up with the Borsig. The view range on this tank is pretty much exactly the same as the Borsig. 360 meters view range. The Borsig obviously got a nerf a little while back, as a lot of TDs did, to bring it down from 400. The idea was to sort of rebalance the tanks. It's not too bad. It's not a huge hindrance if you put food, optics, binos, you have view range skills. You can get up to 445 comfortably, but you do have to tailor your equipment to get it to 445. So potentially playing the view range game of this tank is not the way forward on it. Now, with the, I've been asked this before, silver bonuses on this tank is an extra 50%, EXP is an extra 15%. The playstyle of this tank, or how I imagine I'm going to be playing this tank, is there's a couple of different ways you can play this. So the height of this tank, this is significantly larger than the Borsig. It's closer to the Ferdinand, potentially even the Grill A. In fact, it is closer to the Grill A in size. You're a big tank. You do not have the concealment of the Borsig. Now, this concealment of 36, that's including the permanent camo already on this tank. So unless you go in full vision, full camo, crew, equipment and skills, you know, it's not the strength of this tank. So what I always find is worth doing is accentuating the strengths of the tank, not trying to buff up the weaknesses. So you've got great speed, you've got great gun depression, your aim time and your ability to put shots into a target accurately and quickly is very, very good, and you absolutely have a horrible gun with 490 alpha damage. The way I would be playing this tank is to support the frontline push using ridge lines, use my 7 degrees of gun depression as much as possible, and just lashing in 590 alpha damage at tanks, and then pulling back relocated once it started getting a bit heated. This tank with that speed is perfect to allow you to have an effect on any area of the battlefield where you're needed or where you want to. You can get out of sticky situations, put yourself in a sticky situation. It's a very, very versatile tank. Now, because of the speed, if you really want, you could even probably play this as a medium for our players who really like to throw a spanner in the works with how they play the tanks. You could get away with playing this tank like a medium, as long as you're not leaving yourself exposed to taking damage. Run around, shoot people, get back into cover. Now, the main thing we have to talk about, like I like to talk about in all the videos, is the cost of gold. Obviously, the recent trend from Wargaming has been tier 8 tanks. You're looking at between 14 to sort of 15, 16, 17,000 gold for a tech tree reskin. These are obviously completely brand new tanks to the console. The base cost of this tank, if you don't get it in a bundle or anything else, is 11,700 gold. Slightly on the steeper end, I'll be honest. It's not crazy, but it's a little bit higher than I would expect it to be. But what they have done is they've released it in a bundle. Actually, this bundle here that you're looking at, let's just go there, with Skorpion G, M46KR and the 58 Mutts for 24,500 gold. You're getting a crew, you're getting a garage slot, and you're getting a tank. There's nothing extra put on it, no premium time, nothing else. You're literally paying 8,000 gold for 3 really, really good tanks. So, to me, even if you purchase it individually, this tank is definitely worth it. It's unique, it's going to be a fun experience. There's nothing else like this at tier 8. The Borsig isn't like it. You know, the Borsig you can rely on your camo, you can't on this tank, so it's a unique experience to play. For me, this tank is very, very much worth it. Guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. Let me know your thoughts on this tank. Let me know your thoughts on the bundles that Wargaming has released as well. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time, chaps.